No petitions, so we'll move to item 7, the Kaha project update. And yeah, welcome, David. Do you want to take us through the paper? You might just need to turn your microphone on.
It's showing as on. Can you hear me?
Yep, good as gold. And we've got Mark in the room as well.
Right.
Great.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Kia ora, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the committee today. There's a paper which is in front of you that sort of runs through generally where the project is at, but I think probably the most important things to headline, just to start things off, is to confirm that the project continues well, and it continues both on program and on budget. Our relationship with the contractors B6 Watpac remains very positive. I guess highlights over the last period include the almost conclusion. There's just one left of the very large concrete pours that are establishing the foundations for the steel structure. They've been running for about the last 2 months, and the last one is scheduled for either Friday this week or early next week. So that's quite a milestone in terms of getting the substructure prepared and ready for everything else that has to happen. If you go past the site now, you will see some of the bowl steel starting to be erected in the southwestern or western side, and that will continue through to the beginning of next year and move around the site from the southwest corner up the western side, and from sort of along the south and then up the eastern side. We've had very positive engagement with Mana Whenua, who are preparing a cultural narrative and some designs for Te Kaha, and that work is ongoing, and it will be part of what we present to the council when we come before the full council on the 15th of August. Health and safety continues to be managed very well on site. We've had no significant incidents, and the reporting both by B6 Watpac's health and safety people, but also the audits that are undertaken and reports prepared by council's health and safety officers are flowing through. We have one of those done by the council team every 2 weeks. And we'll present more fully on our sustainability actions, but we've got a series of targets for the contractor to meet in relation to things like diversion of waste to landfill, reuse of water on site, engagement of local consultants and subcontractors, engagement of local Pacifica and Maori workers, and they're tracking well against all of the targets and KPIs that have been set. I think that's probably the sort of the main highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has them.
Thanks, David. Probably the first one, I think you've had some queries on it in terms of the weather over the last few days. A couple of people have indicated there's been quite a bit of flooding down on the site. Have you got any comment on that?
Yeah, the contractor hasn't indicated that it has caused them any problems. There are, in terms of delays or anything to the project, so we're still tracking to program.
Okay.
They do have a reasonably significant, weather contingency built into the program, but we haven't tapped into that yet.
Okay. And probably just a silly question from me, just in terms of there being no issues at this stage with budget or time. Is that common at this stage in a project, or what? Like, I mean, you've obviously had a lot of experience in construction and property. Is this should we be worried there's no issues?
No, I think one of our board members answered that question not that long ago by saying the thing I'm worried about is that I don't have anything to worry about. No, look, all projects are different. Some projects, if they're going to go off the rails, they go off at the start, and they're very hard to get back on the rails. But we've got a very experienced building contractor and very experienced consultants and designers working on this project. And so provided that we keep monitoring them and providing assurance that they are undertaking what they're supposed to do, then we're hopeful it will continue in this way.
Okay, thank you. Yanni.
Thank you for the update. Just in the last section, you've said that 77% of consultants, subcontractors, and supporting businesses engaged by them for the Te Kaha project are local firms. And then just noting in the current update that you're looking at a mechanical services contractor to replace BenMax New Zealand Limited. Is BenMax New Zealand Limited considered a local firm, or is that seen as an external firm?
What they are the parent is Australian, but BenMax New Zealand is a New Zealand company.
Right. So I guess what I'm interested to kind of understand is, because we've seen that quite a bit now with some of our major projects, is although we're kind of told that they're local, they're not really local. They're just Australian companies that set up, companies in New Zealand. So are we able to kind of understand exactly what is the actual local companies that have been working in terms of the percentage?
Yeah. Yes, we can. We can provide more detail, but we'll need to get that from B6 Wattpac. But even if they're an Australian parent, the subsidiary or the New Zealand-owned company will be employing local people.
Right. But I mean, what's the sort of risk assessment that we do with those sort of subcontractors, with those Australian companies, parents setting up local companies? Because obviously, with what's happened with BenMax,
those the contractual and legal relationship for those entities is with B6 Wattpac, not with us. Right. So the risk and reward of those entities is down to the relationship between B6 Wattpac and them, not the council.
Sure. But in terms of understanding how much local use is being done versus Australian companies, which would be good.
David, you've picked that up, haven't you?
Yeah.
So
and the only other question I had was around the Pacifica, the Pacifica engagement around design. Is there any update on what's happening with that?
Sorry, say that again.
With we've had that issue with the Pacifica community being engaged in some of the design elements.
Sorry, I understand now. So we've had meetings with them and have a relationship with them. We want to complete the mana whenua cultural narrative first, and then we'll move to having more detailed discussions with the Pacifica community.
Cool, thank you, David. Now, Dawn had a question or a comment.
It's a question, David. It would be useful, I think, for our elected members to understand the interest in the model that we currently deliver here in Christchurch City Council, and the fact that we've had that interest where we've sent one of our staff, may I say, paid for, to Australia to describe that model, and also the interest that has come from the Treasury as well. Could you just give a little bit about that, please?
Yes, certainly. The model that we've adopted, which is a design build contract executed with B6 Wattpac, is of interest to others because this is a project which, as we commented earlier, is tracking well. So people are looking at and saying, sort of asking, why, what's making it go well. So B6 Wattpac took Mark Noonan to Australia recently for them to do a presentation to a number of their key clients. And I think they're doing the same thing in New Zealand to the Property Council of New Zealand and others, just to describing the way in which the pre-construction period was run and what sort of type of contract we entered into. So there's a lot of interest in it from throughout Australia and New Zealand to see whether it can be emulated. One of the things that they've particularly latched onto is the way that both the B6 Wattpac team and the council team and council's consulting team worked so closely together in the pre-contract period. So it was a very transparent working relationship where our cost estimators, our designers, our project managers, and theirs all worked together, very, very well. In addition to that, as you've said, Dawn, the Treasury, who we have a regular meeting with to confirm assurance issues with them and make sure that they're comfortable with how the project's going, have asked for an introduction to B6 Wattpac because they can see that there's a bit of a gap in the, I guess what you'd call the first tier construction and infrastructure providers in New Zealand, since a number of companies have either ceased to operate or gone out of business. And so they're looking to, I guess, expand the number of entities that they can talk with for Treasury projects on the back of this one going well. In addition, we've had visits and conversations with Tauranga City Council, who are undertaking a substantial redo of their civic centre and various of their community facilities in the Civic Centre, and they've been to have a look at this model so that they can try and emulate it for the way they go about undertaking that fairly significant project.
No, that's really useful. Thank you. As long as we don't rush to refer B6 WAPAC to anyone anytime soon while this debate lasts, that would be great.
No, but B6 WAPAC did undertake that they wouldn't look to do any significant projects in New Zealand until this one was well underway.
That's perfect. Great. Okay, Aaron's happy to move this. Mark's happy to second it. Any discussion? All in favour? Against? That's great. Hey, thank you very much, David, for that. Appreciate you zooming in. And thanks,
That's
Mark,
fine.
as well.
Thank you.
Great. Cheers.
Kia ora.
Okay, now we're